Yeah, it started recording. So, good afternoon, everybody. Today, we are having a presenter, Mr. Vishal Nair, who is entrepreneur, educator, and editor co-founder of Lightnsalt Private Limited. So, welcome to Vishal Nair, sir. Sir, we are Information Science and Engineering Department, CMR Institute of Technology. So we have students from pre-final years and final year to attend this session. So thank you for accepting the invitation and giving this session for our students and faculties. So once again, welcome to you, sir. So really, it's going to be useful for the students, those who are doing final year project, those who have idea of coming up with the entrepreneurship concepts. Okay. So thank you once again, and you can start with the session, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Hope I'm audible, ma'am, clearly.
Yes,
Hope
sir.
my audio is
Yes.
clear. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you, dear students. Uh, for this session, I really want to thank the management of CMR Institute. Thank you, Begum, ma'am. Thank you, Sita, ma'am, especially for calling and having me for this session. So we have a very interesting session ahead of us, problem solving and ideation, right? And when I was thinking about this session, and when I was thinking about how would I present this session, I understood it is on behalf of Institution Innovation Council that you are doing this, and the very objective of Institution Innovation Council is actually to raise entrepreneurs, right? Entrepreneurs and innovators. So I have actually prepared this session today, keeping entrepreneurs and innovators in mind, right? So the session of problem solving and ideation, it would be actually presented to you from from a perspective of an entrepreneur or an innovator, okay? But it will be very relevant for a student like you, right? So let's dive into the session. So even before we uh, get into the core of what is problem solving and ideation, I just want to ask you, have you heard this word called VUCA? Have you heard this word called VUCA? Has anyone heard this word called VUCA? What is this word called VUCA? Would anyone like to say? Would anyone like to unmute yourself and say what is VUCA? Yes. What does this word mean? Would anyone like to unmute yourself and say, or you can even put in the chat box. Feel free to interact as much as possible. Right? Now, this word is not very alien to us. Actually, this word is very popular in the world that we are living in today. Okay, the world that is increasingly becoming a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. Right? There was recently an article on VUCA in Forbes magazine. Okay, in the Forbes website, if you go and search for this article, how to embrace constant change in VUCA world, it's a very amazing article. I believe all of you should read. Now, let me tell you, the time and the season that we are living in today is very different than the time and season that we were living just a couple of years back, right? The predictions of market pundits then was very different to what it is today, right? The realities is very different. And one reason that all these things have happened, of course, as we all know, is because of the pandemic that we are facing. Is because of the pandemic that we are facing. And fortunately or unfortunately, because of this pandemic, we have entered a world that has increasingly became VUCA, or volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Ask seniors of yours. You are pre-final and final year students, right? Now, ask your seniors who would have passed out of this same campus. When they stepped into this campus, most of them would have had a clear picture of what would they see in the world when they stepped out of this world, when they stepped out of this institution. But let me ask you, how many of you are clear about it, right? So what I want to keep a context here is, we are living in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. And a world has entered a new era. Thanks to this pandemic, it has entered a new era, right? So when you think about the VUCA world, when you think about the context of India, right? We all remember, because of the pandemic, even the first wave of the pandemic itself, more than 12 crore people lost their job. I'm just talking about the first wave, right? And you may say, sir, we are a nation of 130 crore people. What's big deal about 12 crore people? Let me tell you, these 12 crore people, majority of them may have dependent family members. So the numbers may be higher, which may be affected because of joblessness, right? Unemployment rate was at record high. One statistics of CMI, Center for Monetary and Investment and Economic decisions that are taken in India, they said that the condition of unemployment, especially within the age group of 20 to 24, that is fresh graduates in our country, is at alarmingly high rate. More than 67, close to 67% of the students are unemployed who just pass out from their undergraduate studies. 67%, right? On an average, the percentage of students who graduate and are non-graduate who pass out is around 48%. Now that's very high number, and this number only reduces by half when you take 24 to 30, right? India's GDP, we saw, has got shrunk, performed the worst, one of the worst of the GDPs it was in this era, right? Now this is a problem that we are facing today. Now when you think about the pandemic, and now there are so many negatives we can take, but let me tell you, this pandemic has also ushered our world into a new era. Miss Arundhati Roy, she had written in one of her book that she released during pandemic, the name of the book is Pandemic is a Portal. There she had recorded this, that pandemics, as in the history, have always ushered the world into a new era, or pandemics have been a gateway between one world and the next. In short, whenever pandemics happen, the world is never same. The Forbes magazine said we are in a VUCA world, violently, uncontrollably changing world. Okay. Imagine how many of you ever dreamed that when you entered an engineering program that you would be spending a couple of years of your life on an online platform. Couple of years on an online platform. You didn't sign up for that, right? You are studying an engineering course, which is supposed to be practical and so much physically intensive in nature, but still you were all online. And as a faculty, we never thought about it, or as students, you never thought about it, but it hit us hard. A technological shift that we perceived would happen in the next 10 to 20 years was there just in a day. But that's what pandemics do. It ushers us into a new world, right? So, well, we have a pandemic all around us, and we are entering into a new era. And this new era brings us new challenges. And to face these new challenges, we require a new mindset. Now, the world is talking about a lot of skill set. World is talking about upgrading your knowledge or education and all. But let me tell you, if we do not cultivate the right mindset, then we lose it all, right? There is a lot of educated people around in the world, but if there are not right people, people with the right mindset, people who look at the problem and see an opportunity in that, then we don't get it all, right? So as we usher into this new era, let me tell you, as a student and as being part of IIC Events, cultivate within you an entrepreneurial mindset. Well, you may ask me, what is an entrepreneurial mindset? Well, that is a topic that can be in another session in altogether. But in short, entrepreneurial mindset, as recorded by Miss Rita Gunther and Ian Macmillan in their book called Entrepreneurial Mindset, that was released close to 20 years back, where they said entrepreneurial mindset is all about how a person captures the benefit of uncertainty, right? And if entrepreneurship is all about how to capture the benefits of uncertainty, there is no better time that you're living in, right? So yes, you may say there are so many problems around us, but let me tell you, these problems are opportunities in disguise. And that's the new mindset that you need to cultivate, right? Even before we start discussing about problem, let me tell you, cultivate a mindset within you that will look at a problem and call it as an opportunity. In fact, the root word for problem, or the root word for problem in Chinese, is actually crisis, right? Is crisis. And this word crisis in the Chinese language or in the Mandarin language does not mean tragedy, does not mean danger, but it actually means opportunity. It actually means opportunity. So Chinese, if you meet a Chinese, if you ask him about problem, he has not heard a word called crisis in his life. He has only heard a word called opportunity with challenges, right? So that's a mindset shift that we need to bring in, right? But this is just a background that I'm giving, right? So quickly moving into the session, let me ask you, Where do you think these images are taken from? When do you think, where and when do you think these images are taken from? Can anyone answer? You can put in the chat box. When do you think these images are taken from? Which year? When do you think these images are taken from? So can I see some answers? You can put in the answers in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and talk. Feel free. Okay, 2021, October, November, during this time. Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to say, when do you think these images were taken? So most of you may perceive in your mind that these are some images that are taken recently, right? Okay, this may be images that are taken in 2021. Some of you are saying October, November, and some of you may say 2020. Okay. And as you see over here, there are children in mask. There are students, especially in mask. Some of them are sitting in the classroom. Some of them are going to college. Some of them are going to catch their bus, and all those students are there. So definitely you may say this is a pandemic time. Schools have just reopened in most of the states in India. And so students are attending the class with mask. But let me tell you, this picture is not of 2021. This picture is taken from the year 2017. Okay. This picture is taken from the year 2017. Now, maybe the mask culture is new to a place all over the country as of now. But this was not new to the city of New Delhi. Now, you may know, and most of you may be following news, right? Which says that the pollution level in New Delhi is close to 5 times more than the hazardous level mentioned by the World Health Organization. That means the air that the people in Delhi or the Delhiites are breathing in is so toxic that it can create serious health issues, and people with lung diseases can actually choke to death. That bad is the air quality of Delhi, right? And the year 2017 was these images taken. So these images are pre-pandemic time. Okay. Now let me ask you, what are the pain points when you look at pollution, air pollution? Do you think mask is a solution? What do you think? Do you think mask is a solution when you look at air pollution? Do you think mask is a solution for children going to school or people going to work? Do you think mask is a solution? What do you think? Would anyone like to contribute? Do you think mask is a solution? You can also put in the chat box. Feel free to put your comments in the chat box. Do you think mask is a solution when you think about protecting oneself from air pollution? Where the pollutant levels in Delhi are as high as more than PM 2.5 particulate matter. That high is a pollution. On air quality index, the pollution is almost over 400 throughout the day, especially during the month of October, November, December, this month until the month of January. What do you think? Is mask a perfect solution? Or are there pain points with respect to using a mask? What do you think? Ask yourself. Are there pain points with respect to using mask? Can mask be a solution for escaping this air pollution? Now, if you just use your logic, you will know that definitely it cannot be a great solution, right? Of course, it can protect you to an extent, whether it is the air pollution in Delhi or whether it's the pandemic that we are facing, whether it's the coronavirus that we are trying to escape from. Well, it can actually help us, but only to an extent. But there are a lot of pain points by using mask. Now, mask was mandated in Delhi even 3 to 4 years back when the air pollution level was too high and so hazardous for people to venture out. But still, I don't think mask was a solution at all, right? Because when you use a mask, of course, it may protect your breathing to an extent. It may filter the air to an extent. But of course, if you use the mask for an entire day, look and think about a student in the school. He's using the mask for around 6 to 7 hours a day. How pleased he would be, right? Some common signs that you would see and you would have seen as you use mask is that it leaves marks on your skin. Some of you develop rashes. Some of you have allergies on your skin because of mask, because of long usage of mask, right? Some people who wear glasses would have noticed that some of the masks or most of the masks tend to fog your glass when you breathe in and breathe out. So it makes it makes very difficult for you to travel, especially if you're riding a bike or a car wearing a mask, and if you're a person who wears a glass, it becomes difficult for you, right? And mask is not a very good solution because mask does not protect your breathing totally. You are still breathing in the air, right, from your sides and top. Mask does not 100% cover. Of course, there are masks now which covers your face totally, but still it does not cover to that great extent. And ultimately, you're going to breathe in the air. So there are a lot of pain points with respect to a mask, right? There are a lot of pain points with respect to a mask. Now, still, when there was air pollution in Delhi, we were telling, well, there's a problem and there is a solution, and that solution is mask, right? Now, this is a mindset that we have carried till now, right? We think about a solution that will just fix the problem for a time and for a season. And when we fix the solution, when we come up with a solution, we do not take into notice the pain points that solution also may bring in along with itself. The pain points such as rashes on skin or fogging of glass or leak from, we don't take into consideration these pain points. And there are so many other pain points but when there is a solution that is mandated, we go ahead with that solution. We have to go ahead because there is no choice left by sometimes government and sometimes for a health reason. But this solution comes with a lot of pain points. Now, this is when a team of students, right? A team of students led by Mr. Pratik Sharma from IIT Delhi, they started pondering over this problem. They started thinking about this problem and they wanted to actually solve this problem, right? So they started talking about this problem, and the problem was actually discovered by Pratik Sharma because his own mother was an asthmatic patient. So he observed quite often that though there is such a high pollution level in Delhi, people were not willing to wear mask. One reason was it hides their face, it is inconvenience while driving another time, and wearing it long period of time was simply not realistic. So Mr. Pratik Sharma, along with the team of researchers in IIT Delhi, started looking or ideating for finding solutions. And their solutions came to this solution called nasofilter, as you can see over here, right? It is actually a filter which actually sticks to your nasal orifice, right? Just under your nose. And it's not visible also. When it sits there, it is not even visible. And it is able to filter particulate matter up to PM 2.5, right? It is that effective, right? If you wear it and go in public, it can stay for 8 to 10 hours and nobody would even notice or know that there is something under your nose. It's as effective as that, right? And that is what they came up with. Now, this is a kind of solution that we are looking for, right? So when you look for a problem, a solution can be there. But is that solution something that the customer would like to use it? Is that solution something that the customer, which will put the customer at ease, right? So till now, even in engineering, as most of you are pre-final and final year students, some of you would have already started working on your project. When you think about your solution, do you think about the person who's going to use this solution? Go one step ahead and think about the person who's going to use this solution. That is what we call as customer-centric solution. Well, you say customer-centric and all, that's not a word that we engineers use. That is only a word that management professionals use. But let me tell you, if you do not come up with solutions that the customers want, then the customers will not buy that solution or will use that solution with a lot of inconvenience, right? So to avoid that, you have to come up with a solution that the customer want, right? So that is what is at the core of understanding problem solving. When you think about a problem, right, get to the root of the problem, but at the same time, solve the problem, keeping always the customer's convenience in mind, right? So the customer will not only accept the solution, but also customer will be convenient in using that solution. This is very, very critical in the world of business, right? So the experience that you create is very important with your product. And how can you do it unless and otherwise you empathize with your customer? Let me show a small video of how Pratik Sharma came up with this innovation. Okay, so let me
just... Nasofilters is a patch which sticks onto your nasal orifice, doesn't go inside your nose and doesn't cover your face either. And at the same time restricts all the pollutants and the smallest of the bacteria entering into your body. You can speak while putting it on. You can even eat while it's on your nose. We have used a unique technology which we call as nanotechnology. We are making nanofibers which are 100 times smaller than a thread of a normal fabric, and we are also increasing the pore density of a normal fabric by millions of times on a unit area. This is the technology that we have built, that we have produced to make filter media of naso filters, which is giving us really high efficiencies to restrict PM 2.5, the most penetrating particles and smallest of the bacteria. The idea actually originated to solve a personal problem, to solve my mother's problem rather. She is an asthmatic, came into my mind to get some product to relieve my mother's problem in the initial days. And then I came to know that this is a problem of billion other Indians and all across the globe. We are a team of highly expert technocrats, IIT Delhi graduates and IIT Delhi professors from textile departments, and together we have built the design and technology of naso filters. We are getting responses from queries from schools, school staffs as well, employees, companies, industries, hospitals rather.
Yes. So one lesson that you can learn from this innovation, right? You can see that there was a problem of using masks, and there is a student who comes up with a solution that not only solves the problem, but also makes the person using that solution to be convenient, to use it conveniently. Now, that's what I'm talking about. When you before you start solving a problem for somebody, use these 3 steps. Okay, start by empathizing with the person. What do you mean by empathy or empathize? Can someone point out what is empathy? What is empathy all about? Can someone point out? What do you think is empathy? If you want, you can even unmute and talk. You're welcome to talk, interact. We would love to hear from you. What do you think is empathy? Or you can put in your observation even in the chat box, right? What do you think is empathy? Yes, Dhruv. Please go ahead. Okay. Anybody would like to say, what is empathy? What comes to your mind when you hear this word called empathy? Yes. Is it same like sympathizing with others? What is empathy? Jai Shankar? Yes, please. Go ahead. You want to say something? What is empathy? What comes to your mind when you hear this word called empathy?
Understanding others.
Understanding others. Thank you, Pooja. Understanding others. Okay. What else? Anybody else? Okay. So Ragam has put in the group, in the chat box, that to put ourselves in others' shoes. Right. So if you combine the statement given by Pooja and Ragam, is where we actually arrive at the right definition of empathize. Now, as Pooja said, understanding others. And Ragam says, put ourselves in others' shoes. That is exactly. Putting ourselves in others' shoes and understanding their worldview is what is empathy. Right? Now, maybe sitting in Bengaluru, we see that there is a pollution problem in Delhi. Right? But sitting here, we can create a solution which we have never used, which we have never worn or used, right? And we may say the Delhi people want this solution. We may go and give the solution. Some of them may use it, or some of them may use it with inconveniences. But the way we need to empathize with them is we need to put ourselves in their shoes, understand their worldview and the pain points that they're having from their point of view. For example, we are hearing a lot about farmers' problem in our country, right? But do we really know the farmer's problem? Until and unless we go and spend some time with that farmer and understand the problem and the pain points associated with the problem from his point of view, right? From here, we may be saying, okay, the farmers are facing problem because of some policy decision of the government, right? But there are so many problems that the farmers are facing, which will never be discovered in a conference room, which will never be discovered in an engineering college. It will be discovered only as you and me, you students, would go to a farmer, talk to a farmer, empathize with the farmer. That means you talk to him, spend quality time with him, and try to understand his point of view about the problem. Because until we do that, we do not come up with a solution that your customer want, right? That so this is the key to problem solving. The very first step and the very key step towards problem solving is we need to understand others and their pain points, not from our point of view, from their point of view. As Mr. Pratik Sharma said, he was trying to solve a problem that his mother was facing because she was asthmatic and she was getting affected by the air she was breathing. And he was empathizing with his own mother. He was able to understand her pain from her perspective. And that is where he came up with a product called nasofilter, right? Though she was an asthmatic, though she knew the air outside is hazardous, but she was not very convenient in wearing a mask and going outside, right? And that is where he started empathizing with the pain points and came up with a solution that would suit his mother and millions of other people who are having the same problem, right? That is how you solve the problem, right? Whenever you think about a problem, empathize with the person. The second thing is you define the core problems that the person has, right? Define the core problems. Now, the core problems is very important for you to arrive because there can be hundreds of problems associated with a particular person. There can be hundreds of problems because of air pollution in Delhi. There can be hundreds of problems with the farmers' crisis in our country. There can be hundreds of problems with many other, but at the core of the thing, what is the problem? Because you are not God to solve all the problem everywhere. You can target 3 or 4 critical problems, and when you try solving them, all the other problems also will come in line, right? So define the core problem. What are the core problems with respect to air pollution, right? What is the solution presently available? And what are the problems with the solution already available in the market? That's how you define the core problem statements with respect to, again, your customer, or with respect to, again, your probable users, not from your perspective, but from their perspective, right? So that is a viewpoint that I want to change. I want you to change. Do not look at the world just from your preconditioned mindset. Okay, try to look at the world from the mindset of others, right? Microsoft CEO, Mr. Satya Nadella, when he was asked recently, what is the secret of the successful tenure at Microsoft? Because when he took over Microsoft was at a staggering loss. But today, the Microsoft shares have increased 600 times in the presence of their present CEO, Mr. Satya Nadella. Their share prices have almost rocketed 600 times, right? What is behind this stellar success story? That was a question that was asked by the journalist to Mr. Satya Nadella, and to which he answered that the reason that we are so successful at Microsoft today is because we try to empathize with our customer and know the needs that they mention to us and do not even mention to us by empathizing with them, right? So only by empathizing, you get to the root of the problem. Only by defining, you understand the problem statements that you can start attacking. Only after that, you can start ideating. Ideating means you can start brainstorming or mind mapping to come up with possible solutions, right? I would like to give you one more example to put things into clear perspective, right? Okay. So the next example that I would like to discuss with you is a story of a student called Miss Jane Chen, who came to our country more than a decade back. Okay, she was on an education tour in India, and she was visiting many villages in India. And she was a student at Stanford University. She was not an engineering student or anything. She was just a student of design. So she was on a research trip to India. And when she traveled across different villages, one common problem that she started noticing was that there were many premature babies that were born in India. Premature babies who were born, especially in remote parts of India. Premature or preterm, or babies who were born in term but were underweight or undernourished, right? So she found that there are a lot of mothers who were giving birth to these babies, And there are so many babies who are actually dying because they could not get an incubator support. Now, in our rural India, there are no big hospitals and all. So definitely only big hospitals have access to the so-called incubators. And she found that in rural parts of India, millions of babies were dying just because they could not get an incubator support. Millions of babies who were mostly preterm born. And most of these deaths happened the first 28 days itself. 40% of these children died in the first 28 days, because if a child is born preterm, the child is not able to regulate his or her body temperature. And so incubator is what actually supports that. But if the incubator is not present, then the child survival possibility is so low, is very low, right? So she found this predicament, she found this problem happening in India. It was all because of a technology that they could not access or afford. And so many mothers were 50% of them who actually gave birth in home settings lost their babies due to it. This captured her attention and she became so passionate about solving this problem. She went back to Stanford and she mentioned this burden with her design school student over there. Couple of them were also from India. Rahul Panikar was an Indian student who was studying there at that time. So she formed a team and they started thinking about solving this problem. They started thinking about solving how to solve the problem. Well, incubator is something that is so costly, costs around 20,000 US dollars. So it's lakhs of rupees in India. It cannot be a possible solution to rural setting in India, because rural parts of India are so backward and they cannot afford a technology like that. And apart from that, an incubator works on electricity. It needs to be handled by trained staff. And all these things were not going to become possible in polyclinics or community health centers in rural part of India. So this was a problem that they saw. And this is the passion with which this team started working with. And they saw that when they analyzed, they saw that the problem was actually daunting. They found that 20 million preterm babies are born throughout the world, around 15 to 20 million. And around 3 million babies of them die every year because of not having an access or not able to afford an incubator, right? In the developing world, most of the developing worlds in Africa and India and other South Asian countries. Now, this was a problem that Ms. Jane Chen tried to address with her teammates. Right? She started brainstorming, she started ideating, and they came up with a lot of designs. Right? They thought about first making something like a tent-like design, right? They started thinking about making a design which has hot water running under it. They came up with different types of designs. They thought about a maternity vest which will keep baby close to a mother's bosom, so that the baby temperature will be kept. But that was not a possible solution for keeping baby close to the bosom for more than 8 hours a day. That was not possible, or 24/7. Now these were the problems that they came up with this one, but they iterated for next 2 years experimentally, and with a lot of clinical trials they came up finally with a solution which is called as an Embrace infant baby warmer, right? So as you can see here, it is a simple, it looks like a sleeping bag kind of device which has actually a temperature, a thing that maintains the temperature, a wax, a phase altering material, which is made up of a food grade material wax, which actually sits right under the cabinet where baby sleeps. And this keeps the baby warm. This maintains the temperature. And this costs only 1% of a traditional incubator, as cheap as that, right? They could come up with the solution. They tested and tried the solution. This solution is actually saving the lives of millions of babies, not only in India, but also in countries like Bangladesh and many other African countries in the world, right? So as simple as that. How did they come up with? Only when Jane Chen started empathizing with people, empathizing with mothers, actually, right? I'd like to show you a small presentation on how this product actually came up with, right? Let me just show you a small presentation. Yeah, it's a different tab. Is the capacity to understand or feel what another Empathy is the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing from within their frame of reference That is, the capacity to place oneself in another's position. Through empathy, we are able to put ourselves in other people's shoes and connect with how they might be feeling about their problem, circumstance, or situation. Empathy is an important element in design thinking and is important for understanding needs of a customer. Let's understand this with an example. 15 million preterm and underweight babies are born every year around the world, of which 3 million babies die in the first 28 days of their life. So that's around 6 babies every minute. One of the biggest problems these babies face is to stay warm by regulating their body temperature. That's the primary function of an incubator, which is readily available at big hospitals. Incubators are not only expensive, they require constant electricity, they're difficult to operate, and you're not going to find them in remote parts of the world where many of these babies are dying. Chen, a graduate...
Sir, good afternoon.
Hello? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, some of the other students have to join because it is full. You just open in other tab and you can use that link, sir. We have given the link in chat box.
Oh, okay. Can I use multiple links, sir?
Yeah, yes, sir. You should open in another tab, sir.
Tab.
Tab and you can join that link, sir.
Where is it sent, sir? That link?
It's in chat box. We have sent, sir, in chat box.
Chat box. Okay.
There is no HTTPS. It's okay now.
Sir, is it okay, sir?
Yeah. I'm trying to log in. It's not going in. Yeah.
Just go to the presenting option, then right click, look, tab option is there. So click on tab.
Sir, or else you can do one more thing, sir.
Yes, sir.
You will share the screen with that no screen presenter, no, sir. Like
share the screen with?
No, sir. If you go to that screen sharing option, no, sir.
Yeah.
In that you will get a last option. Tab is there, no, sir.
Yeah. I'm sharing that only.
No, last option, sir. A tab.
Okay. Yeah. Tab only I'm sharing. The last option.
Sir, if you click on the tab, you will get share the another Google Meet link.
Okay. I didn't get that.
Okay, sir, you are not able to join with the link of what we have sent in.
Yeah. I'm not able to join.
What you?
It's just rotating. It's just keeping on rotating.
Okay, you continue, sir. We'll let you know.
Sure.
Okay. Sorry for interruption.
Yeah. No problem, sir.
Okay.
School student at Harvard University was on a research trip to India and traveled from one village to other. It was during this time that she discovered many women from rural parts of India lost their babies, especially because of premature birth and unavailability of an incubator facility at the clinics in their remote villages. She also came to know that India is a country that records highest number of infant mortality in the world. She was convicted deep within her heart that there could not be any greater injustice in the world if a baby has to die just because they could not access or afford a technology. In seeing this situation, she realized that there was a need for low-cost, locally appropriate solution to this problem. She wanted something that could be used by mothers. That means it should be easy and intuitive to use and able to function without a constant supply of electricity. That's where she, along with a group of designers and engineers from Harvard, started ideating on possible solutions. For the next 2 years, they went through hundreds of iterations and intense product development and clinical testing to come up with a product called as Embrace Infant Warmer in the year 2011, which looked as simple as a sleeping bag for a baby. The core technology sits underneath the sleeping bag. It's a pouch of wax-like substance, a phase-changing material that when melted maintains a constant temperature for hours at a stretch. Though the technology was very simple to be used by the mothers at home, but still the team cautiously released few samples to train doctors and healthcare professionals at hospitals and gathered a lot of feedback after interacting with them as well as interacting with rural illiterate women about the ease and safe use of the product. Finally, after 4 years of research and development and gathering feedbacks from doctors, healthcare professionals and mothers from rural parts of India, they came up with the next version of product that showcased device readiness when heated through simple color notification, could maintain constant temperature longer for about 8 hours, and could also be heated by pouring hot water into an inlet if electricity was not available. Her innovation that costs less than 1% of the traditional incubators is helping to save millions of babies around the world today. Chen could identify a problem, understand the pain points of the people having the problem from their point of view, and come up with a solution that was tested and tried by all stakeholders. This is the essence of the design thinking process, empathy. Yes, so I hope you saw the video, right? And you would have taken some key learnings also from the video, right? So can anyone mention what was your key takeaway from this video? Key takeaway of how Chen solved a problem. Yes, how did she solve this problem? The problem that she came across. Yes, anyone who would like to mention? Anyone would like to mention how did Chen solve a problem? Yes. Wasn't this a problem worth solving, right? And how sad, right? It was not noticed by any Indian student, right? Though it was a problem so Indian, but still this problem was not noticed by any Indian student, right? Though he may be a student from IITs or CMRIT or anywhere, right? We could not notice this problem, but this problem was noticed by a student who was on a research trip to India. So that's what I was saying in the beginning. To understand the problem of others from their perspective would require a new mindset. It does not require a skill set. Chen could come up with such a solution is not because she was an electrical engineer. No. Or she was an engineer by profession. No, she is not an engineer by education. She's a design student. But she came up with a solution like this because she could empathize with the people having the problem. She went through in the entire country of India. She visited villages after village. She interacted with doctors in community health center. She interacted with mothers who lost their babies because of preterm birth. She interacted with people and all the other stakeholders who are facing this problem. She understood their pain from their point of view. And that's how she came up with a solution such as Embrace Infant Warmer, which would actually be a solution to save millions of lives of babies. Not only in India, but all over the world. Now, this is what I am saying is the essence of problem solving, empathy, right? Unless and otherwise we are able to empathize with the people who are facing the problem, we will not be able to come up with a solution that they really want or that would really work for everyone. Yes, there was a problem called babies being born preterm, and there was one solution that was traditional incubator. But nobody addressed the need for that solution for rural setup, right? We thought, yes, the only way that the solution could be if there is electricity supply for villages and there is some government fund that is released by which incubators can be available in villages or rural setting. But we never thought, can we redesign that same solution and come up with a solution that can penetrate even to the remote and the most remote and the rural parts of India, because 70% of our country is still residing in rural India, right? So that is what requires a renewed mindset, a new mindset. And let me tell you, the era that you are stepping into, the world that you are stepping into now, is a world filled with challenges like these, and so many. And each of these challenges or problems are opportunities in disguise. Miss Jane Chen found her problem in India, though she was from USA. She found her problem in India and she ran with that opportunity. Today, she is known worldwide as one of the best innovators in the world. She's recognized by World Health Organization, one of the most innovative products in the world. Her product is mentioned by, and she's coming up above all that thing. She's touching the lives of millions of people whose children otherwise wouldn't have survived because of the lack of technological access or affordability of a technology that was remote, right? So this is the essence of problem solving. Empathize. Start by empathizing with your customer, right? Understand their pain points from their point of view, not your point of view. You are trying to solve the problem of farmers in our country. Go live with the farmers for some time, talk to them, understand their problem from their point of view, not from your point of view. No wonder why our politicians cannot solve their problem in our country, right? No, we cannot, until and unless we step into the shoes, understand the problem from their point of view, right? So that is only time when we can actually solve the problem of an individual, when we understand from his point of view, right? Yes. So yes, Guru Kiran, you want to say something? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So let's see another example, which you may all be very familiar with, right? How problems birth solutions that can become enterprises. Right? Now, all of you may be very familiar with Phanindra Sama, right? A student like you who just had passed out of his college and was working in Bengaluru. He was basically from a city, Hyderabad, right? And he was not. He wanted to actually go back to his home for Diwali vacation, right? He wanted to go back to his home for Diwali vacation, and we all know how he faced a difficult time, right? Booking a bus ticket. We would have heard this story before, for sure. Many of us. For those who haven't heard, I would like to mention it shortly, right? So, Mr. Phanindra Sama, he was a student. He was just a fresh graduate working in a company in Bengaluru, and he decided to go back to his hometown for a couple of days to spend time with his family during Diwali. And he went looking for bus tickets. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Now, he went looking for bus tickets in maybe somewhere in Bengaluru. During the year 2004-5, this happened. Now, during that time, there was no online ticket booking portal. Maybe your faculties can identify this with this problem, because as we were very much traveling those days, we would go to a travel agency office and book a bus ticket, right? We would walk into a travel agency office, and there was no other way of booking a bus ticket apart from going there physically. So we'll have to sometimes even take a leave for half a day, and we have to go and book a bus ticket, especially for season time, because there was a huge rush. Now, this is a problem that Phanindra Sama came across with. He went there just a couple of days before Diwali and could not get bus ticket. He went after one travel agency, after other travel agency, after other travel. He could not get the bus ticket. After going through 10 or 20 different travel agencies, he kind of gave up on his pursuit of going back home. And he gave up, and he actually went back to his room, and he was spending his time there. Now that is the time Mr. Phanindra Sama, he came across one. That is the time when he could not find a bus ticket. He understood that there are hundreds of travel agencies in Bengaluru which actually operate bus on this route between Bangalore to Hyderabad. And definitely, at least one of these buses will have one ticket which he can actually take and travel to his hometown and spend time with his family. But here is this one individual who's all tired and not able to go to each and every travel agency. And there are hundreds of travel agencies out there. At least one of those travel agencies which has one ticket would be happy if one person books that bus ticket so that they can go full bus from Bangalore to Hyderabad. And by that, they can actually have more remuneration, or they can have maximum profit. But they are not able to find. There was a gap. And when this problem was realized, and when Mr. Phanindra Sama identified himself with this problem, he was able to come up with a solution called Redbus. Well, Redbus was launched in the year 2006 as an aggregator portal, uh, only for one route, that is Bengaluru to Hyderabad. That he came up with a solution, and the rest is history. Right? To cut the story short, 12 years later, Redbus had become the largest bus booking portal in the world, not only in India. Right? It started only on Bengaluru Hyderabad route, but it slowly expanded to almost every single route in India. Right? Today, bus ticket booking is synonymous to Redbus. Right? Most of you, if you travel to another city, the first thing that will come to your mind is, are there tickets on Redbus? Right? So that's how big a revolution that Redbus has brought into our community. Right? Now, that is the essence of problem solving. There was a problem that Phanindra Sama was facing, and he came up with a solution in the form of Redbus, right? That not only made the life of so many people easier. Nowadays, we don't book bus ticket by going to a travel agency, standing in line, and then paying the price that are most of the time non-transparent. We don't get the choice of booking a seat. No, but Redbus has made all that convenient. On one portal, we can see the availability of bus ticket. We can see transparent pricing. We can get offers. Of course, our bus can be tracked, and all those features are possible, and has made our life far more convenient, because Phanindra Sama found an opportunity in a problem that he himself faced. Right? This is the essence of problem solving. Unless and otherwise you are able to identify yourself with the problem that is around you. Unless and otherwise you are able to empathize with the person and identify their pain points from their point of view. Right? We will not be able to come up with a solution that will truly sell. Right? So that is an example of how problem solving can open doors of opportunity for you. Right? Let me tell you this one statement. The greatest opportunity in your life is not in your education. Don't get me wrong, your education is important. The greatest opportunity in life does not come through your family networks. The greatest opportunity in life is not in your campus placement. The greatest opportunity in life is when you solve a problem. Phanindra Sama solved that problem, became a billionaire, right? Mr. Pratik Sharma solved a problem, is affecting millions of lives today in Delhi. Ms. Jane Chen has solved a problem, has led to one of the most innovative products in the world today. Now, that is the opportunity problem solving can bring in your life. So let me tell you, students, are you looking for great opportunities in your life? Become a problem solver, right? And when you solve a problem, make sure that you commercialize that solution, right? That's how you come up with great opportunities in life, right? Thank you. So that's about problem solution. Now, let me ask you a question. And as most of you are silent, let me ask this question in a little different way. Okay. So I'm going to share a link with you, and you have to answer that question there, right? So let me share that link first of all with you. Yes. So in the chat box, you'll find a link. Okay. It's a link to Menti portal. Your faculties may be using it already. What we are conducting is a small poll. Okay. And the poll is very simple. When it comes to innovation, when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to technology, which country comes to your mind first? Right? When you think about technology, when you think about innovation, when you think about path-breaking innovations and entrepreneurship, technology, and all these things happen, which country comes to your mind first? So just click on this link. We will know how many of you are literally there in the session. Okay, I'm joking. I'm not going to test that. But we would like to see your response, right? We would like to see your response. And I would like to display your response to everyone, right? Thank you. So please click on that link and answer. Yes, I can see a lot of responses already coming. Thank you. So that's great. Wow. So many of you are sharing so enthusiastically. Great. So you are sharing, you are saying countries like China. Yes, China is a country which can be talked about when it comes to innovation. Germany. So many of you have said Japan. And I guess so, because Japan, yes, is a country that comes up with so many innovative solutions and is regarded in the world as a country that innovates a lot. Yes. So Dr. Shivana has mentioned Sweden. Yes, thank you, ma'am. Dr. Rani, ma'am, has mentioned USA, China. And I'm happy some of you have even mentioned India. Good way to go. I'm looking for a country. Yeah, Dubai. Okay, Dubai is not a country, by the way. Dubai is a city. Yes, Dubai, yes, is coming up in the innovation. Russia, some of it. Germany, Korea. Yes, when it comes to quality manufacturing, nobody can beat Germany, right? Okay, Korea. Yes, a country synonymous with innovation, especially in the current trends, whether it is 5G, whether it's smartphones. South Korea is far ahead. South Korea, in fact, right? Not North Korea. Yes. So somebody, I think, misspelled world for word. Okay. Japan, USA, United States of America. Yes. China, Germany. Okay. No other countries come to your mind? Any other countries that come to your mind? Nice. There are 38 participants, and most of you have got stuck to this 5 to 6 different words. Any other countries that come to your mind? Any other countries that come to your mind? Okay. So I think that's it, right? Only these countries. Okay. So I guess so. Most of you would point out to these countries, and you're right to many extent. That these countries, yes, are leading a path in innovation. Whether it is countries like China, whether it is countries like USA, whether it's countries like Germany, all of them have in their unique way a great contribution to innovation, technology, entrepreneurship, and all. Right? But I would like to surprise you with a country that you wouldn't have thought about, right? And I would like to tell about how innovative they have been. Yes, some of you are pointing out countries like Finland and New Zealand. Yes, if we come to education system, especially among school, Finland is termed as the most innovative country in the world, right? And New Zealand is a tiny, but yes, some innovations happen there. But a country that I will point out to you, maybe it would be a shocker for some of you. Some of you may have known it but have not mentioned it. But let me just point out that country to you. Yes. Have you ever heard about this country? Yeah. Now some of you may be saying, sir, Israel? How is this even possible? Israel a country? How innovative it can be, right? Now, let me give you a brief background. If you look at innovation, if you look at entrepreneurship, if you look at another word for entrepreneurship, which is called as a startup, and if there is any country in this world which is called as a startup nation in the world, it is Israel. One of the highest density of entrepreneurs in the world that is found is in Israel. Right? If you look from the year 2000 to the year 2020, close to 1/4, that is more than 20% of the Nobel laureates in the field of science and technology are from either Israel or Israelites settled in other parts of the world. Right? If you look at some of us prolific companies in the world today, right, and there's founders, whether it is Google founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, Israeli descendants. Mark Zuckerberg, Jewish, right? Larry Ellison of Oracle, Jewish. So this tiny country has one of the greatest impacts on the world. But this country was not very much different than our country. In the year 1948, if you look at this country, it had almost got the independence almost the same time like India got a year or so later, right? And when it became independent, it was at war from day one, right? Because this was a country of migrants, and migrants with whom the neighbors did not sympathize with, right? The countries that surround Israel are 360 times bigger than Israel. Countries like Egypt, countries like Syria, Jordan, all these countries put together are so big. Lebanon and all these countries, but the country of Israel, when you put together the geographical, with respect to geography, on map, if you put together these countries, they're 360 times bigger than Israel. And these countries were bitter enemies of Israel, right? So it was at war from day one. And the country that Israel had inherited after independence was a country that was 2/3 desert, uncultivatable country. So from day one, they understood they are going to have the problem of agriculture, food. They cannot cultivate anything that they have to eat. And they understood world powers had lost their appetite for wars, nobody would come and support such a tiny country like Israel, right? The third problem that they were going to face was with respect to water, because Israel did not have any natural water resource to its credit. There is only one side of Israel which is facing a sea. Another sea it has was Dead Sea, which does not even give fresh water, right? So Israel actually did not inherit any fresh water supply, and it was a problem for Israel. Right? It was a big problem for Israel. Israel did not have a fresh water. It did not have the luxury of River Nile, which was flowing through Egypt, but not through Israel. And Israel was not blessed with a rainy season like we have. We have rains falling like anything today. There is flooding everywhere. Israel does not have a rainy season like India has. Israel is not blessed with that. So Israel had a problem of water. Right? So Israel had a problem with respect to agriculture. Israel had a problem with respect to defending it from its enemies. Israel had problems with respect to security. Israel had problems with respect to water. But fast forward yourself, and due to want of time, I'll cut the story short. Today, if you look at Israel, right? Today, if you look at Israel, with respect to agriculture technology, this is one country which has pushed back deforestation. In the last 70 to 80 years, Israel has become a world power when it comes to agriculture technology. You talk about drip irrigation, it was discovered in Israel to solve their own problem of water and agriculture, right? You talk about many of the agriculture innovations that we see today have come from Israel. When the world looks at any country to be a solution provider with respect to agriculture, they look at Israel. Today, 2/3 of the country, which was desert once, is cultivatable land. And Israel is a food independent nation. When it comes to securing them, especially in the cyber warfare arena or the world, Israel is known to the world to be a country that manufactures and sells solutions in cyber security to world governments, to the governments of the world. We know recently our parliament session could not operate because of a cyber security breach that happened, right? And a software called Pegasus that was used seemingly against our own people, right? And these software companies are established in Israel. When it comes to R&D centers of Microsoft, Cisco, or many semiconductor manufacturing companies are all situated in Israel, right? So when it comes to defense technology, you'd be surprised to know, or some of you may be already knowing it, that 30% of all defense export that happen from Israel is to India. India is one of the largest weapon buyer from Israel. One of the largest weapon buyer, right? India, when it comes to securing borders, nobody has better solutions than Israel in the world. Their Iron Dome technology, as the world could notice, when their neighbors were putting bombs to their territory, none of the bombs could drop on their territory because of their perimeter defense technology. That's what Israel is. They are very advanced with respect to their defense technology, right? With respect to water technology, Israel is again an exporter of water technology to the world. They were the country which first found out solution to convert seawater or saline water into drinking water. That's Israel. So when it comes to agriculture or cybersecurity, defense, water, and so many other technological arena, Israel is a world leader. But how big is Israel? 30% of the defense equipments are exported to India. How big is Israel when you compare to India? Can anyone think about how big is Israel? Right? We're talking about so many achievements of Israel. Can you determine how big is Israel? When you think about 1/4 of the Nobel laureates coming from science and technology stream from this country, how big is Israel? How many have come from India? How many have come from India? Right? You know how many have come from India, right? Not even one. So when you look at achievement with respect to water technology, cyber security, they're so high. When you look at the highest entrepreneurial density in the world, it's in Israel. When you look at Google navigation today, and you're surprised by how Google navigates you by giving you the solution on map and everything, let me tell you, the navigation was made possible only after Google acquired a company called Waze, which was Israeli made. PayPal is secure today is because they could acquire a company called Fraud Science, which was an Israeli startup, right? So many Israeli startups are there, which is transforming the world today, right? And it's making a great impact. Now, that's why this nation is called as a startup nation. The second high-tech city after Silicon Valley in California is called Silicon Valley, which is in Israel, which is in Tel Aviv, Israel. Tel Aviv, Israel, of the city Tel Aviv in Israel is called as the second most high-tech city in the world, right? How big is Israel? So if I ask you, what is the population of Israel, right? How big is Israel? Now, let me tell you, Israel is not a very big country. Well, the population of Israel is just 90 lakh people, 90 to 92 lakh people. What is the population of Bengaluru? Close to 1.2 crores, right? Right? You can understand. Israel as a country does not even have a population that would fit inside Bengaluru. It is that tiny a country. That tiny a country. Now you can understand at scale. If a country that is as small as even the city of Bengaluru can have such a great impact on the world, only and only because they have converted their problems into opportunities. They had the problem of agriculture. They have converted, they have solved that problem and created opportunity out of that problem. The technologies that they developed to solve their own problem, now they're selling it to the world. They had the problem of security. They solved that problem with all the softwares and the defense industries that they've come across with. And today they're selling that technology to the world. India boasts about its Tejas aircraft, which it says is made in India on a record time of more than 30 to 40 years. But let me tell you, close to 70% of the navigation systems and all the other electronics and other hardware systems that are there inside that aircraft is either Israeli made or American made. The bomb, the navigating missile systems that we use in most of our Russian fighter jets that we have is Israeli made. It's called Simpex. And that was the same bomb we use in Balakot airstrike, seemingly. Right? Now, that is how India is so much reliant on such a tiny country called Israel. In fact, when our Prime Minister was on a visit to Israel, he said, I'm so surprised with the technological revolution in Israel, the kind of revolution which I have not even seen in USA. He was so taken aback by the development in Israel. Now, what I'm saying is, if a tiny country like Israel, with just 92 lakh people, can have a GDP that is close to 4 times of the GDP of Bengaluru, can have an impact of such a high magnitude in the entire world, can solve the problems not only of itself, but can sell the solution to the world, how much more can Bengaluru do if you and me stand up and look at problems as opportunities in disguise? So do you see problems around you? Let me tell you, start solving that problem, and that will open the greatest opportunity for you. And not only because of that, but the world will be a better place to live just because you have solved that problem. Right? And you can, let me tell you, do not solve the problem, commercialize the solution. The solution that you bring, commercialize it, take it to the market, sell it, make a value out of it so that you can become a solution provider to the world. Right? Now, how to solve a problem? So just to close with some session takeaways, let me go back to the presentation. Right? So when you think about a problem, first thing that you have to think about is who was the person who's facing this problem. And you have to empathize with that person, because until we empathize, we do not get to the root of the problem. Empathy is what Pratik Sharma did and came up with Nesu filter. Empathy is what Miss Jane Chin did and came up with Embrace Baby Warmer. Empathy is what Mr. Fanindra Sama did and came up with Red. So until you empathize, you cannot get to the root of the problem. Right? Once you empathize, define your core problem statements. What are those problems which, as a student or as an engineer, I can target so that I'll make somebody's life easier? Now, you cannot solve all the problems. Select 2 to 3 top problems and start attacking it. Right? Ideate. When you ideate, the best way you can ideate is when you collaborate with your friends and brainstorm. Do not ideate all alone inside 4 walls of your classroom. No, go out there. Ideate with the stakeholders in the of the people who are having the problem, right? Ideate with your friends who are having skills that you may have or you may not have, right? So find people to collaborate with and ideate. The best tool to ideate is brainstorm, right? Brainstorm. When you brainstorm, don't be judgmental at all. Brainstorm in such a way that you encourage each other's idea, build upon each other's, constructively build upon each other's idea, and not cut down each other's idea, right? Mind map, put your ideas onto a paper, create a mind map. I hope all of you are familiar with tools like mind map. So use the tool of mind map. And remember, do not shy away from experimentation, right? You want to find a solution, experiment, build, measure, learn, right? Do not think that the best solution is what you'll build. No, the simplest possible solution that you come across, try to build it, try to prototype it, try to make a solution demo or a minimum viable product. Because when you do it, you can understand the experience of that solution, and you can understand how your customers or probable users will actually accept that solution, because you need to test. So build your product, measure how the product will perform in the market, learn from it, and again build it. So experimentation is the key word, right? Now, when you think about coming up with your solution, don't stop with your solution, commercialize your solution. Okay? Because when you commercialize your solution, you ultimately make that solution available for millions across the world, right? And you create a value for yourself, and you create job employment and a economical viability for others, right? So thank you so much. I hope I could contribute to an extent about your understanding of problem solving. I'm open for any questions anybody has now. Yes. Anybody has any questions? I'm open for it. You can ask any question. You can also put it in a chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask also. Anybody has any questions? Okay. So if you don't have questions, then yes, Sita ma'am, you can take over. Or Begum ma'am, you can take over. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I request the participants for asking questions to sir. He will answer all your clarifications. Make use of this golden opportunity. You can ask 1 or 2 questions at least. No questions?
Okay.
I have shared a feedback link. I request all the participants to fill the feedback, and the attendance will be taken from the feedback itself. I take this golden opportunity to thank respected resource person of this event, Mr. Vishal Nair, for attending this session in his busy schedule. Sir, we definitely apply the ideas you gave us in real life. We thank you so much, sir, for sharing such enthusiastic ideas and real-life examples and videos. Definitely, our students and faculties convert these ideas into startups, entrepreneurship, and patents. Thank you so much, sir. I extend my thankfulness to our respected principal, CMRIT, Dr. Farida, the professor and head of IIC department, Dr. Agalya, INE head of CMRIT, for encouraging and supporting us to organizing this session to the students of CMRIT. I extend my gratitude to IIC members of IIC department, Dr. Girish, Dr. Shubhani, Dr. Mannar Manu sir, for helping me in organizing this event. Last but not the least, I thank our students for attending this session. Without you, this function would not be a successful one. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, sir, Vishal, sir, for such a very nice presentation, detailed presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. My pleasure.
Many students are not able to join the session because of the maximum strength reached. Definitely, we have recordings.
Yeah,
we will
sure.
share with other students also.
Yeah, that will be good, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Students, fill the feedback form, and attendance will be taken directly from the feedback form. Those who fill the feedback, you can just leave. We can see so many students saying thank you, sir. Definitely, our students are blessed.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It's encouraging.
Thank you, sir. So many students are saying. Yes, you have any problem in submitting your feedback, you can type your USN number also. We are notifying the USN number, and you get definitely you'll get the certificate and the attendance.